He is one of the greatest villains ever created in comic book history. Fans have come to know him as the ultimate corrupt businessman, a scientific genius, and even President of the United States. But no matter what he is in the moment, he is and always will be Superman's arch nemesis. Of course, we're talking about Lex Luthor. Recognizable for his bald head, his acerbic and cynical perspective of humanity, and his complete and total hatred for the Man of Steel, he is set once again to face off against the protector of Metropolis in this summer's upcoming DC Studios, Superman. So, what better time to revisit his first ever appearance and see just exactly how this pillar of the DC Universe came into being. However, what you will notice is that he is very different than the Lex Luthor we know today. Back in issue number 23 of Action Comics from April 1940, he was merely known as Luthor, no Lex. He was presented as the prototypical mad scientist with fantastic inventions wrapped in the persona of a cult leader, and he had a shockingly full head of bright orange hair. Not yet was he a man of international success or of unlimited resources. He was a schemer, a man on a terrible mission to instill conflict and then benefit monetarily from those conflicts. However, what does remain the same is that Superman was there from the very beginning to create the rivalry that would define both characters for the rest of their fictional lives. So let's take a look back at one of the most classic stories from the Golden Age, one of the most important comic books ever produced, Action Comics number 23, and Lex Luthor's first ever appearance. But before we do, we'd appreciate it if you like and subscribe, comment, and share this video out. It really helps out the channel each and every week. Thank you. We begin in the middle of a war between Galonia and Toran. Daily Planet war correspondents Clark Kent and Lois Lane are walking the streets of Bulgaria on their way to an important interview when a shell explodes nearby, knocking Lois unconscious. Clark, also known as Superman, picks up her limp body and carries her to safety. A moment later, Clark is changed into his real persona, Superman, and propels himself hundreds of yards into the sky. At that same time, on the border between the two warring nations, a Tauran commander is watching with delight the havoc his cannon is making with each successive shell. Then, Superman arrives. He begins catching each deadly shell in midair, and then hurls them back from whence they came, destroying the bombarding battery and ending the potential for more civilian casualties. Finished, Superman returns to where he left an unconscious Lois Lane and changes back into his reporter's garb. For Superman, if there's one thing that angers him, it's the suffering of the innocent. A few moments later, Lois comes to. He tells her that Superman saved the day, and Lois expresses her disappointment in not being able to see him once again. They continue to Army headquarters for their appointed interview with Galonia's General Lupo, who tells them he expects the war to end very soon. A delegation from Toran should be on their way to negotiate a peace at that very moment. With the information in hand, and after returning to his hotel room, Clark turns once again into Superman. His goal? To get photographs of the Toran delegation arriving, and with that, he launches himself into the battlefield once again. Perched on a tree limb, Superman snaps a few pics of the Toran delegation as they make their way, but suddenly, the car is engulfed in a massive explosion, killing all inside. There will be no peace today. For the Toran army, they believe it to be the work of the Galonians, just another example of their treachery. The trench battle between the two nations begins anew. Superman returns to his hotel, wondering if the Galonian peace offer was just a ruse. As Clark Kent, he quickly writes up his story and dispatches it via telegraph to the Daily Planet. Then, back to General Lupo for some pointed questioning. General Lupo tells Clark that it must have been an accident, that Galonia would never violate the flag of truce. As Clark leaves, his super hearing detects the general making a phone call. He decides to listen in. Lupo tells the caller that he just got rid of that suspicious reporter, and that no one will ever know the truth. Minutes later, as the general drives off, Superman follows in the sky above. The general parks near a mountain and walks up to it. As Superman descends to confront the general, he finds that Lupo has disappeared. Where? He cannot tell. There are no entranceways or holes in the rock to allow a human to fit. With his bare hands, Superman begins ripping the rock apart, exposing a hidden passageway. He enters and walks along the pathway until he hears something. Superman hides behind a boulder, intent on listening to whatever is going on. He sees General Lupo standing at attention in front of a slab of shiny rock. And as the general stares at it, strange lights and noises begin to emanate from the slab. Then, the image of a distorted face appears and commands the general, "Speak. What have you to report?" The general tells the hologram that the plans have been carried out and the war will be prolonged. As Lupo turns to leave, the face disappears, and Lupo then finds himself face to face with the Man of Steel, who has heard enough. Superman grabs the general and demands answers. The general refuses to cooperate. Angered, Superman picks the general up over his head and threatens to bash the general's brains out against the rock walls. The general quickly changes his mind. He tells Superman that in a few moments, a squadron of planes are going to invade and bomb a nearby neutral country. That it's all part of Luthor's plan to engulf the whole continent into a destructive war. Superman's first question: who is Luthor? The general begins to answer, but before he can get the words out, the holographic face reappears behind them. 2 lasers shoot out from its eyes, cutting the general in half before turning on Superman. But Superman can take it. He forces his way forward, and with one punch, he smashes the mysterious stone slab, sending the hologram away. But the power of his punch inadvertently causes the cave to collapse on top of him. But again, this is Superman. He flails his arms about, sending the rocks away as if he were shooing away flies, until he has burrowed his way back into the sunlight. As he emerges, he sees in the sky the squadron of bombers Lupo referred to. He cannot allow them to bomb a neutral nation. But as the trailing bomber sights Superman, the tail gunner opens fire. A bad decision. The bullets simply bounce off Superman's chest, as Superman sees that the uniforms are neither Galonia or Turan, but something unfamiliar. He then tosses the gunner into the sky. Seeing this, the rest of the squadron turn back towards Superman, who is now taking up the gunnery position and begins to fire until out of ammunition. He walks out onto the wing of the aircraft and snatches 2 other bombers out of the air, smashing them together with a fiery result. Just one left to go now. Superman then commandeers the plane and flies it directly at the remaining bomber. Kamikaze style, the 2 planes collide in midair, destroying both. For Superman, he descends back to Earth unharmed, the wreckage now strewn in a distant field. Later on, as Clark Kent, he tries to explain these new developments to the 2 warring nations without revealing his source. But they did not believe him. At that same time, we get our very first glimpse of Luthor in his secret lair. Clothed in a dark red robe, he listens with arms folded as his underlings report the bad news. He gives the order: eliminate Clark Kent for good. But unfortunately, Lois Lane is the person found in Clark Kent's hotel room first. She was wondering where he was. Luthor's henchmen still believe she'll be useful, and they kidnap her for questioning by their master. Lois is brought to Luthor's base of operations, a dirigible of massive size and intricacy, floating high in the stratosphere. She's brought before Luthor, who wonders why she was taken instead of Clark Kent being killed. The men explain that she could serve a purpose later on. For Lois, she cannot believe her eyes. The blimp, Luthor, the army of henchmen, she must be going mad. Luthor questions Lois, but Lois has no answers, and Luthor has no time. He has her taken away and placed under guard. But as she is held prisoner, she studies the guard watching over her. Something is strange about this one. Then she realizes it. Luthor's men are all under hypnotic control, except this one. She confronts the guard with her theory. The guard confirms it. For some reason, his mind is not susceptible to Luthor's hypnosis. He then begs Lois not to reveal his secret, otherwise Luthor will kill him. Lois demands that the guard get a note to Clark Kent, or she will expose him. He quickly agrees to her terms. The guard flies a solo prop plane down from the dirigible to Galonia. He then sneaks into Clark Kent's hotel room to leave her note while Clark sleeps silently. But the moment the guard leaves, Clark wakes up and finds the note. He now knows Lois Lane is in trouble. Minutes later, Superman leaps from his hotel room in pursuit of the guard's returning plane. When he sees it, the plane is in a vertical ascent. Superman crouches and tenses his muscles for a gigantic effort, because wherever that plane is heading, if he follows it, he's sure to find Lois. He then rockets his way upwards into the stratosphere, where he sees it, a colossal dirigible. He catches the side of the platform, pulls himself up, and then quickly knocks out the 2 guards in sight. Meanwhile, Lois is being tortured by Luthor's men. Luthor wants the truth, and even though Lois has told them everything she knows, they do not believe her. Using his X-ray vision, Superman is able to ascertain Lois's position and predicament. Tearing through the tower, he's determined to make short work of the brute harming Miss Lane. And with one punch, his fist penetrates the wall directly into the brute's face. Lois cannot believe it. Superman has arrived. Superman orders her to take his arm so they can escape. But then, the hologram of Luthor's face appears once more. He advises Superman not to leave, to which Superman replies, "I don't fear you. You cannot harm me," as electricity emanates from the enlarged face only to be repelled by our hero. Luthor then answers Superman, telling him, "But the girl, she is not invulnerable. Either submit or she dies." For Lois's sake, Superman permits them to be escorted by guard into Luthor's presence. All the while, Superman tells Lois they've got nothing to worry about. When finally in front of Luthor for real, Superman wonders, "What sort of creature are you?" Luthor tells him, "Just an ordinary man, but with the brain of a super genius, with scientific miracles at my fingertips, and I'm preparing to make myself supreme master of the world." Luthor then tells Superman that his plan is to have every nation at each other's throats, until they're all so weak, he can step in and assume command of them all. Superman tells Luthor the only thing he should step into is a straitjacket. To protect Lois, Superman allows Luthor to chain him to the wall while 4 green rays bore steadily at him. Luthor is impressed with how strong Superman's skin is, but is confident that in 5 minutes, Superman will be annihilated. As the rays blast Superman, he can feel his strength leaving him. Luthor celebrates his destruction of our hero, because no one can stand in Luthor's path. No one. Then, Luthor gets impatient. He's tired of slow destruction. His ray, when set to full, could raise whole cities. He moves to test it on Superman. Taking his chance, Superman breaks free of his chains and grabs the ray machine. He tells Lois to duck as he swings it around towards Luthor, but Luthor has a backup, another ray light that he hits Superman with dead on, this time sapping his strength even quicker than the first. But Superman still has enough to summon up one more punch, and he leaps forward and destroys Luthor's contraption. He grabs Luthor, who tries to bargain with Supes, telling him he can make him rich. For Superman, he thought Luthor would prove a coward after all. Grabbing both Luthor and Lois, Superman races for the control room. When they enter, Luthor demands his men destroy the intruders. Superman tells him that they are welcome to try. For our hero, it is not a contest and over quickly, as he juggles the men like bowling pins. Superman then turns his attention to the mechanism that keeps the massive dirigible in the air, and with his bare hands, he tears it apart. As Superman and Lois escape, the dirigible topples and glides downward out of control. It crashes with a tremendous blast into the battlefield below. And as the rest of the blimp burns up, Superman and Lois watch on. Superman believes that they've now seen the last of Luthor. He then races back to their hotel, Lois thrilled to be in his arms. He then changes back into Clark Kent, once again set to address the leaders of Galonia and Tehran, who now, having seen the burning dirigible in the battlefield, believe every word he has to say. Half an hour later, they inform Clark that the war is over. Peace has been reached. At the editorial office of the Daily Planet, Perry White receives Clark Kent's exclusive article, amazed at how he gets good story after good story. For Clark and Lois, as they sit on a park bench, their work in Europe is done. It is time to pack and return to Metropolis. Lois still hopeful that she will once again have a chance to see Superman. Thus ends Action Comics number 23 and the first ever appearance of Lex Luthor. Yes, he will change over the years, but the foundation of the power-hungry control freak that he is was always there from the start. He may lose his hair, he may lose against the Man of Steel time and time again, but Lex's obsession with being the ruler of all that he surveys will never cease to exist. I hope you enjoyed this look back at Lex Luthor's initial fight with Superman. If you want more comic book fun right away, click on the thumbnail at the end of the video for our look back at the first ever appearance and origin story of the monstrous Swamp Thing. You'll be glad you did. I thank you for watching. Remember, I'm still your reluctant gringo from somewhere south of the border. Salute and a huevo.